Alright guys, so I saw Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I was really excited for this one. The trailer looked pretty damn good. And I knew I was going to see something definitely original, something crazy, something that really speaks to the Doctor Strange universe. Now, I'm not a big massive Doctor Strange fan, but I've liked the parts that he's played in the films, in the Spider-Man films. Benedict Cumberbatch is like a really good actor. I wasn't a big fan of this guy, back when he was in Star Trek and how he was playing Khan, but I've really warmed up to this guy, this role. I mean, you really look at him and he definitely is Doctor Strange. I'm only really familiar with his very brief appearance in the Spider-Man animated series from Fox Kids. So, to be able to see him in the movies, this is one good thing that's about these movies. They take these characters and they give them a platform. And this is something that would have been unheard of years ago. They give like one of these more minor superheroes, characters in the Marvel Universe, their own movie, give them the spotlight. But this kind of movie is the reason why I'm always very critical of these films and the entire Marvel Universe and the MCU in general. First of all, no one wants to admit that there's superhero movie burnout. I mean, I like these movies. You see, based on this channel, I always go to see them. Not every single one, but when they're the majority. Definitely anything related, anything even close to the Avengers or Spider-Man has always captured my attention. So we want to talk about this film and what it brought forth. And I gotta tell you something. I was really not a big fan of this movie. I was let down by this movie. Yeah, I was. I really didn't care for it that much. And that's really alarming to me. Because all the pieces were in place for what should have been a really good movie. First of all, you've got Doctor Strange, a really good lead actor in Cumberbatch. So really, we should have had all the right ingredients here, especially with Sam Raimi. I'm gonna come out and tell you right now, this is the reason why I really wanted to see this film. Sam Raimi is without a doubt a phenomenal director of the Evil Dead series, director of some of my favorite movies of all time, and including my favorite superhero movie of all time. Really, these days, it's kind of a tie between Spider-Man 1 and 2, but he's also directed Spider-Man 3, which is a movie that I think, gets a lot of flack, but doesn't really deserve most of what it gets in terms of negativity. Sam Raimi is just a fun director, full of creativity, full of fun ideas, and the fact that Sam Raimi was on this project is probably why it was as good as it was, meaning that it could have been a lot worse. But I would not consider this to be a good movie, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. So Danny Elfman's along for the ride as the composer. We'll talk about something that he did with the score that I'm in love with later on. And also we get our, world famous Bruce Campbell cameo, which albeit was not as funny as it is in the 3 Spider-Man films that he directed, that being Sam Raimi directing them. So, that's always a nice little callback to Bruce Campbell, owes Sam Raimi a lot for putting him in these films and, giving him the notoriety that he deserves. But this film right here, it's just a big fucking giant mess. Now, before everyone comes at me, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that do so, we got to talk about something. This movie is visual splendor like redefined. I mean, it is a really gorgeous looking movie. It's gorgeously shot. It's well done. The CGI is nice. It's a really good looking movie. But when you crack open, the golden exterior, you get inside and you really see an interior that's, well, less than phenomenal. And it's really confusing. And, there's a lot of elements being tossed around, as the title might suggest, but it's not really what I thought it was going to be. I thought like Multiverse of Madness, where, whoa, it's going to be crazy, it's going to be total madness, but it's kind of tame. The madness really is just how the story flows, the pacing of it, and I gotta tell you something, it's not boring at all. I mean, I was entertained for the most part, mostly because of the visuals, mostly because, Benedict Cumberbatch does really make this film, and, he really does control the scene, draw the attention to him. But all the other elements really are just so unappealing to me. Having America Chavez as kind of the centerpiece of the story, because basically, I get the main idea of what's going on here. Scarlet Witch is trying to get America Chavez to use her powers to try to help her get reunited with her children that are in a different universe. This is something that came about in WandaVision, apparently, which I did not watch because it looked as boring as hell, and a lot of people confirmed it, so I would not waste my time with that. Already I could hear fanboys saying that, you can't rightfully say that this movie was all over the place if you did not actually watch that show, but I beg to differ. And first of all, to me, I do kind of like that idea that you've got the shows and the movies intertwined and you're trying to make this like one big happy universe. But it is kind of annoying, when you have your movies and your shows and you're trying, and not all of them are good. I'm sorry, I'm not going to commit to a whole entire show and watch it, just so I could get a little piece of the plot. I understand it. I could just do what I did, look it up on Wikipedia and go, and then move on about my day and see the film for what it's worth. But this plot right here, this storyline, is not doing it for me. It really is not. First of all, these characters, look, nothing against Elizabeth Olsen and her portrayal of Scarlet Witch, but this character is just like, it's okay. It's not a great villain. It comes off sort of generic. She tries to be sort of stoic in a way, but I was thinking to myself, speaking of Sam Raimi must have been saying to himself, after working with Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe and all these great, over-the-top villains and their performances that they put forth. I mean, truly, Willem Dafoe's The Green Goblin was an iconic performance, and I get it. This is a different universe. We're not talking about Spider-Man here, but I mean, when it comes to superhero movies, I want an over-the-top villain. I want a memorable villain. Otherwise, don't make the movie, because honestly, that's how I feel about it. If you're not going to give me an antagonist worth a damn that draws attention to the screen, that makes me want to see the hero of the story overcome that antagonist while still liking the antagonist because of the performance that's being put on, then you're kind of losing me here. Now, they go to a different version of Earth because America Chavez has the ability to, travel through the multiverses, and they end up on a whole alternative plane, and things just kind of sort of get really confusing here. She can't get them back home to the previous dimension that they were in, and it's just, man. I get it. It's mind-boggling. That's what it's supposed to be. It's called the Multiverse of Madness. But you got to admit, I think even some people need to admit, what the fuck is going on here half the time? You're left in the dark, and it's really annoying because you really have to think. And okay, no, I get it. You don't want sometimes all your superhero movies to just be brainless popcorn fodder. You want a little bit of substance. You want something there, and I get that they want to make a more complicated, complex story, but holy shit, it just goes off the rails half the time. And there's a lot of dialogue being floated about. You really need to be paying attention to every last word, and you still have 1,000 questions, and the answers are coming in way too slow. It really is so all over the place. It's truly alarming. I really want to see someone, and I have yet to do so. I haven't seen everyone's review, but can anyone really just do a video and explain from front to back, from beginning to end on this movie, just everything, and explain. You don't have to be super detailed about it, but explain really like what is going on half the time. Anyway, we get Mordo. He's taken over Strange's base of operations, and now it's been taken over by a group known as the Illuminati. And we see that we've got different characters here. We have Captain Marvel. We've got Reed Richards, which was a big surprise. I didn't even know that he was going to be in this film. It's obviously an alternate universe, Reed Richards. And Professor Xavier, which I didn't know was going to be in this movie. So I was happy to see Patrick Stewart. And when he comes on screen, not only does he have, the yellow hover chair, and in the background, you can hear Danny Elfman puts together a symphonic version of the animated series theme. And that right there just, I felt chills. That was a glorious moment. And, there's moments like that, like, oh man, like I really do want to love this movie, because that's like a good touch right there. But, overall, you're just, not really loving this. So you've got Doctor Strange finding himself, his alternate evil version of himself in this universe that they've landed in. And, he ends up finding his way back eventually. They end up defeating Scarlet Witch, and America Chavez actually ends up opening the dimension for Scarlet Witch. And she ends up seeing Wanda in the other dimension, and she's also taken her over and tries to, make her way into that universe. But anyway, the kids end up getting terrified, and, this is like a realization for her that she doesn't belong in this universe. And, they just end up defeating her in the end, and she's gone, and, after everything that we saw, this just kind of feels very anticlimactic. I get there's supposed to be an emotional tone here. We're really supposed to see kind of like the tragedy, and there's like a story here. And I do kind of get those Sandman and Spider-Man 3 vibes, but it's not on the same level. I really couldn't empathize or sympathize at any point with Scarlet Witch. Her character is just so flat. There's no facial expressions going on. There's nothing. There's nothing I'm getting out of this. Everything just feels so flat and just kind of uninspired from a story standpoint. There's nothing exciting here that I'm really liking. I mean, for me, really, what's the best part? I would say, the fight against the Illuminati, when she manages to take over the WandaVision's Wanda's body. This is kind of like the point where, things kind of do get a bit exciting. And, it was kind of cool seeing Reed Richards there, but he ends up getting torn apart fairly easily by this possessed Wanda. So, you do get some decent action scenes, but overall, I was just so dissatisfied with what I was seeing. I mean, there's just really nothing here. And I knew one thing when I saw this. I'm like, there's no chance in hell that I'm ever going to watch this movie again. It's funny because it's not boring, but it's just a very unappealing film that doesn't really speak to me. And maybe that's just me. And I don't really like the all over the place approach. It's just, you've got too many things going on. I get it. This is the multiverse of madness. Whoa, it's out of control. But you know what? This multiverse, it's just more confusing than madness. And they could have done so much more with this. I think they could have used other Marvel characters as well. I know they don't want to go back to the well so many times, but they could have done some really interesting things with this concept. You could expect the unexpected. And yeah, the Illuminati, things went a little bit differently there. We didn't expect to see Reed Richards and something like that, but I think they could have gone a little bit further with this concept and really blow your mind. But I didn't really feel like my mind was blown. I was like, hey, look, it's Reed Richards, Professor Xavier. But you never really have that moment where there's just something really just mind-blowing going on, you know? And what do they really do with these characters in the end? Not too much, really. You're asking me to come along on this journey, and then, you know, the end result is just less than satisfying. I mean, kind of feel like I sort of wasted my time with this one. Didn't really feel like I got a whole lot out of it, you know, in the end. It's not a satisfying film. It's just like, okay, you know, some nice visuals, you know, a little bit of a story that goes here and there in a few other places, but kind of ends back sort of where it started. You don't really feel like you got a satisfying resolution. And it's like, after this, you know, I sat there for the end credits and I'm like, well, okay, you know, there's a little bit of a hint there that, you know, the evil Doctor Strange has found his way into the Strange of this universe, the real Doctor Strange. You know, as we see the third eye appearing on his forehead, as we saw during the battle against him. And, you know, I'm like, okay, this is not exciting. It's not making me say, oh shit, I can't wait for the third film. It's just like, okay, you know, you didn't really do enough for me with this one. And that's what I've noticed about a lot of these Marvel movies. They hold back. I've said that with the Avenger films. They held back because, oh, you know, we're going to make it. You know, we want to do the Infinity War. So, you know, we're going to try to pull our punches here. You know, we're not going to go full force on these movies. You know, we're gonna give you a boring movie like Age of Ultron and Civil War, you know, and just bore the hell out of you and really not give you any good villains or anything like that, because we're holding out for Thanos. And that's what it is here. You know, you don't have a good villain. You have a really boring, sort of convoluted story going on with America Chavez, who's a really boring as hell character with nothing to offer. There's just, you know, having her here as a sidekick is not doing anything at all for this movie. I don't know, you know, they want to have a female co-star. I get it, you know, it's the girl power hour. I know this is the way that they kind of want to go with the MCU, and what are we in, phase 4 or something like that? Who really is this appealing to? Like, I don't know these characters. Does anyone see them and just get really excited to see these characters on screen? I mean, there's just no excitement like emanating off of them. They're not good antagonists. They're not fun to watch. The battle against good versus evil is just kind of really just boring and just feels very generic. So, yeah, I mean, I can't say this is a terrible, awful movie, but it's definitely not a good one, and not one that I really thoroughly enjoyed or even really enjoyed all that much. It was sort of a tolerable experience. There's a few good things, a few, you know, cool concepts and ideas and amazing visuals, which is probably what I would give the top spot here to. That's what steals the show. You know, Benedict Cumberbatch and the visuals, really. And, you know, it was cool to see Xavier and the stuff they did, you know, introducing this Illuminati. You know, it was interesting, but, you know, in the end, like, okay, they didn't really amount to much at the end. Like, seriously, like, you see the Illuminati, like, what kind of effect did that have at all in this movie? Like, kind of felt like you could have just had them there or not, and you would have kind of gotten the same result in the end. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments down below. I'd love to know. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell to get all notifications when I post all my new videos. I want to thank all my patrons for your continued support. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.